Hi, and welcome to Girlbye, the podcast that brings the queer conversation to the so-called norm. Today, we have a very special guest with us, a girl that has danced in everyone's mind over the years, and somebody that brings tons of joy to every room she walks into. Natalie, welcome to Girlbye. How are you
I'm
doing?
doing good, just living day by day at this point.
Living life.
Living life, living large.
The best way to live. So take a couple of minutes, introduce yourself, let people know a little bit about who you are, and tell us what's your favorite hobbies.
Okay, so I'm Natalie Pagan. Who am I? I'm a little weirdo who likes a lot of different hobbies. I don't really like to label myself, but of course, we live in a society where labels are kind of helpful in some ways and not in other ways. But right now, my main hobbies are like aerial. I do pole dancing, and that is one of my favorite things in the world. My first love will always be my first love. So I do a lot of shows and you know, trying to expand out and do more shows in other areas. So watch out for that. And yeah, I'm just really about
Period.
being helpful to other people, bringing more love into this world, and bringing liberation to all. That's
Period. Yeah, I did see clips because I think I was out of town that last like that show that you had, but I did see a ton of clips. Christian was like sending me stuff
yeah.
and it was a vibe. I'm like, these
Yes.
people are wild. These
Yes.
people are really doing the thing.
Yes. There was so much love in that room that day. I was just like, oh my God. I met so many cool people from like literally all over North Carolina. And I'm just like, now I'm following them and I see what they're up to. I'm like, yes, y'all better do y'all thing.
Yes. Those are one of those, I feel like, when there's like the really, really rich parties and they like invite like these
Yeah.
people to come do like different shows and different stuff. Like even some drag queens kind of do some of these like private party gigs. I feel like that would be an amazing thing to like walk in and like
Mm-hmm.
different rooms of the house have like different people performing
Yes.
different types of like aerial work.
Yes.
That would be,
It's just like a fantasy
listen.
world, low key, like, oh my God.
Yes. Like what it also reminded me of was there's a club in New York City called House of Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a lot of like show like things throughout the night,
Mm-hmm.
where they do a lot of like different stuff that I would say is like most relatable to like a Cirque du Soleil type of vibe.
Yeah.
But it's in the middle of the club. Like
No, but that's a vibe right there. That's what I'm trying to get.
it'll happen like they will clear out the dance floor and do a show in the middle
Yo,
of the night.
what? I need to go there then because what? I've never heard of that place.
It is a vibe. When I say it is a vibe, we are not sponsored by House of Yes, but we can be sponsored by
It's just
House of
cool.
Yes. Just saying. But yeah, love that place, and they do a lot of that stuff there. And
Mhm.
like everybody there is a performer. You should follow them on Instagram, House of Yes. You can see their stuff there.
Definitely gonna have to check it out.
Yes. So being part of the queer community is always an adventure for all of us. When did you officially realize that you were part of the queer community? And did you have like a big crazy story, or was it kind of just like, oh, by the way, this is happening too?
I honestly feel like I kind of started coming to my realization that, I am bisexual when I was in college. I remember going to the first Pride here with one of my friends in Charlotte, and of course, the first time I was just going as an ally, whatever. I'm just like, oh, I love the community, so I'm gonna come support. Little did I know that a couple of years later, I was gonna be a part of the community. But there was one incident with a coworker, and I started to realize that I had certain feelings for her that weren't just friendship. And then
Yeah.
ultimately, things happened, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm bi. And this is
Well, I like
happening.
that. That was
Yeah.
good.
So then,
Yeah,
since
we.
then, it's just kind of been like, kind of opening my views, rewiring certain things that I learned that don't necessarily align with who I am now. and just coming to
Yeah.
terms with my reality about that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, is it does take time to kind of mold it to the new way of thinking. Because, as we grow up, I mean, we are taught to be a certain type of way and
Mm-hmm.
fill a certain type of mold. And I
Mm-hmm.
think as we continue to learn how to be more authentically us, it becomes a little bit of a battle. And it's
Mm-hmm.
part of the journey, part of the adventure,
Yes.
the
Yes.
stories.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your hometown, and then kind of your journey. Where have you been? Where have you experienced? What's your favorite place to be?
I was born in Miami, but we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina when I was like 3. So I claimed Charlotte as my hometown. Went to elementary, middle school, and high school here. And then I went to school in Greensboro, which is an hour and a half away, for college, and did my undergrad there. And then I've been in Charlotte since then. But with my undergrad, I was able to travel to Peru. I was there for 6 months, and that really opened up my eyes to the world, basically. And then since being back, I did a whole road trip across the US by myself. That was about 6 or 7 months too. I stayed in Montana for a good while, stayed there for 6 months, and then drove all the way down the West Coast and came back. Recently, went to Mexico. That was really cool. Need to go back there. So yeah, big explorer here. If there's a chance to travel, I'm gonna take it because I think that's just the best way, really, to learn about other people and other people's culture and getting like a firsthand experience.
Yeah. I love that because personally, I mean, I love exploring. I have lived in tons of states already. I think I've officially lived more than a year in like 6 states, 5 or 6 states maybe. I love to pick up and go
Mm-hmm.
and see something new. I
Mm-hmm.
think you don't really learn about culture the same on a vacation.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think a lot of people don't even realize that, like, even across the US, from state to state, I think it's so culturally
Yeah.
different. The US is just so big that it's really different. When even going from like north to south,
Yeah.
Southerners are very different from the northern
Yeah.
people. So it's very different. What was your favorite parts of Peru?
I loved, of course, the city that we were staying in, Lima, because it was just so big and there was so much to do. Like, I don't even think we hit a majority of the things to do there. Like, I still am like, okay, when am I gonna go back? Because I definitely want to go back there. But the other experience that really like stayed in my mind was when we went to the Amazon and we were in there for like a week, just literally in the jungle, on the river,
Wow.
every day. Like, we saw dolphins and like crazy things there. And that experience just is forever ingrained in my mind because it was such a unique experience. And like, I think about it every day.
That is
Yeah.
crazy. That is so crazy. I am not a creature person, so I'm not like a camper type.
Yeah.
So I find it amazing. I will actually insert a photo here of a camper that I literally just saw today
Oh, yeah.
on the internet, and I literally posted it. I shared it on Facebook because I literally wrote, like, I was like, yeah, I will go camping in this type of camper. And it's like a 3-story luxury camper. Pretty sure there's like 2 bathrooms. There's like a ton of stuff in there.
Yo.
Um, I have never
Glamping.
been the creature type. I'm not the, yeah, like sleep in a tent on the floor, not for me.
See, but the thing is, I'll sleep in a tent. I will not sleep on the floor. I but do need an air mattress, at least. You cannot catch me on
Fair.
that floor.
Fair. My problem is not the floor as much as it is the
That
tent. And then no AC. That's really
that's a
the,
big one
yeah,
too. That's
yeah.
why, it's important to camp when it's like not as hot. Don't really do in the spring or the summer, springtime, fall time. Best options.
Yeah. Might be something I think about, although probably not. But it's the same reasons why like I would love to go to Australia. And I
Yeah.
know that people are going to read me in the comments for this, but I have the craziest thing that I'm going to get to Australia and I'm going to be the one to come in contact with like those crazy huge spiders or like a
Yes.
big ass snake,
Yes.
or I come off the plane and automatically have to box a kangaroo.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's going to be something that happens to me.
That's your entry into Australia. You have to box again.
She has to box a kangaroo, and I'm just like, this is not it. This is
Just,
not my
oh my
adventure.
god.
And where these like big creatures come into play,
Yeah.
it's like that's where I'm like,
I don't know about that. I need four sturdy walls around me.
yeah, I need something that like I can spray a little bug spray, and
Yeah.
hopefully like everything will stay away.
And that's valid, right? We all have our comfort levels. And
Yeah,
yeah, I feel you about that.
yeah, for sure. So, in all of your adventures, to take us back a little bit, what was it like kind of coming into your authentic self, getting to learn yourself a little bit more, and growing up in Charlotte?
I will say that growing up in Charlotte, it allowed for like kind of like an open mindedness from the start. But obviously there were still some societal things that were pushed onto you, growing up, whatever.
Yeah,
Um, and that just like for me personally, probably just being heteronormative, and the whole, well, you're gonna find a husband and then you're gonna marry, have kids, and blah blah blah. I thought I wanted that, and then as I grew up, I was like, no, baby, actually, I don't. No, thank you. Redact that. I came to terms that honestly, I do want to eventually be married, but I don't want to have kids. And I need a partner who understands that as well, because I don't need nobody being like, oh, she says that, but then eventually she'll want to have a kid. No, I don't want a kid. We're gonna have dogs. That's it. And just like the whole traveling, I feel like that really, especially when I did the road trip, I was by myself the entire time. So I had to become comfortable with being with myself, which I think a lot of people unfortunately struggle with. They kind of seek avenues to kind of escape from themselves. But when you're really
yeah,
sitting there by yourself and you don't have anybody else, you ain't got no service to call nobody else. Like, it's just you and you. You gotta be like, all right, let's sit down and explore ourselves and see what we really like about yourself and what you don't like about yourself, and what you can work on. So that was
yeah,
really the main thing that I kind of dealt with through my travels, and just learning that I actually really enjoy myself as a human being. I think I'm fun. I'm very open minded. You know, I don't think I cause drama, but to some people I may. But for the most part, I just want to make sure everyone in my circle is good. I want to make sure that I'm good. And
yeah.
that was what that was really about.
Let's be fair. We all cause a little drama in
Yeah,
our circles.
that's a,
There's always a time.
there's always a time.
But a little bit more about kind of like your journey kind of in getting to know more about yourself and really come into loving yourself. I don't think everyone naturally loves themselves. Like I don't think anybody does.
Yeah,
I have yet to meet somebody that has ever said, "Oh, I've loved myself from day one and I still
yeah,
do now." But in that time of being alone and really, I never thought about that, but yeah, as you're driving and stuff, there's probably a lot of times where there's no cell phone service, no nothing. Especially in the Midwest, there's
yeah.
nothing. As you were kind of there, were there times where you kind of was like, this is wild and I don't know what to do and I want to go back? Or was it kind of like a positive feeling for you most of the time during that journey?
The majority of the time it was positive, but there is definitely times where I'm like, what the hell was I doing? And like, I wish I was home. And I actually,
Yeah.
one of the things that came to mind was when I was in California, I was just kind of feeling already down, and I was in Los Angeles. I was trying to do some things that day, and nothing was going to plan, and everything was just like, this was closed, or this wasn't, the way it was supposed to be, blah, blah, blah. And I just ended up crying and calling my mom and being like, Mom, like just venting to her. And she was like, Natalie, it's okay. Like, you're okay. If anything, just like go back to the Airbnb that you're staying at and, just
Yeah.
relax, take care of yourself, and just know that it's just one day. It's not like every day that's like this. And I'm like, you're right. So that's exactly what I did. I went back and I felt like I got some food, relaxed. And I told myself, like, this feeling, how you're feeling is just now, but it definitely isn't the overall feeling of how I felt during the entire time. And it's just kind of like a healthy reminder that, like, along with the positive feelings that you do feel, there are the opposite negative feelings that are going to come along as well. And that's
Yeah.
just human nature. Like, we're here to feel the feelings, good and bad. So you just got to take them for what they
Period.
are and,
Yeah.
move through it.
But while you were on this, I'm gonna continue to say that it's a journey because that taking that time by yourself, I think, like, especially for me, like, I moved to Kentucky for a little while and I was
Mm-hmm.
completely by myself, and I had like some family that was there, but like, I was by myself.
Yeah.
I was really like figuring out life. I found an apartment. I was like trying to figure out how to be an adult. I
Mm-hmm.
was really young at the time. So that was like my first really like being alone, being like in a studio apartment by myself, like staring at the walls, really like trying to contemplate life. And so, what in that time would be like advice you would give somebody that's going to try to go on this adventure, or like even is currently in that situation that maybe is like either wanting to give up or not really sure like what to do next? What could you give them as like positive advice for that time in life?
That's a great question. Honestly, what helped me the most was one, starting a journal. I feel like a lot of people say, oh, start a journal. Like, no, start a journal. Write down everything, how you feel, like good, bad. Write down the days that you want to remember, the moments that you want to remember, because it's always kind of helpful to look back on your past self and see that the same emotions that you're going through now, you felt in the past and you got through them. Like, it's always good to look back on that and be like, oh, I was able to move past that. So I'm going to be able to move past this too. And I also think what helped me was really honing in on the things that I love and just continuing to do those things. So like pole dancing, I continue to do that. I continue to travel, which I love, and like listening to new music, finding new songs, like just finding new things that help you get through that moment that you are and feeling like, well, maybe I can't do this, or maybe I can't, you can. You can. Gotta give yourself a little grace. And I think that's also important. Give yourself grace because we're always our worst critic. And you wouldn't tell, I, some things that people tell themselves, I'm like, you wouldn't say that to your friends. So why are you saying that to yourself? Like, no, don't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I have brought this up before because I think it's kind of funny that people in general say that they love themselves, but then will also walk by a mirror and point out a flaw. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is a level there of, yes, you shouldn't be so like wrapped up into yourself where you become narcissistic about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also like a frame of like where every time you walk past a mirror, you should not be critiquing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain level of self love that you should have where even certain parts of yourself that you may or may not like, you still find a way to like those pieces. And I
Mm-hmm.
think when you do have like this time frame where you're alone and just trying to figure out who you are and trying to figure out becoming an adult, I think that time frame in your life is a huge exploration and there's nobody telling you what to do. That when you really do learn how to love yourself, where you're no longer doing that, like telling yourself negative things about yourself, you become a very different person. You become a very different person inside and out, because
Yeah.
people start realizing that like you just don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Some people, when they start realize that you don't care, they will stick by you. But then other people will be like, she's too full of herself, or she thinks too highly of herself. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm just making sure that I'm good.
Yeah. And I think that that's important for your circle though. I
Yeah.
think like, because you should, and this is going to be advice that I give that a lot of people are going to have an opinion on. but sometimes the people around you will see themselves away.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you don't have to be like the type of person that's like, first of all, friends with everyone. You could be friends with a select few and acquaintances with everyone.
Yeah.
But you can also, some of the people that you may become friends with now, when you hate yourself, will not like you when you love yourself.
Yes.
And I think that that's hard for a lot of people to flip through, because
Yeah.
when you do come to love yourself, the people around you that don't want you to succeed but don't outwardly say it are not going to like the fact that you have found a way to love yourself,
Yep.
because that is a part of success.
Yep.
Being able to
Mm-hmm.
love yourself is a part of personal growth and a
Yes.
part of your overall success.
He has spoken.
I sometimes be talking. Um,
Sometimes I got smart things to say.
right. Sometimes they come and sometimes they go. Um, and so definitely, hearing about that really kind of opens up a little bit more, because I've known you after all of this growth. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really know a lot about your journey from that. And so it does explain a little bit more about your personality and why you do kind of bring a lot of positive energy when you do walk into a room, because you're not carrying kind of negative energy towards yourself. So like
Yeah.
it's really hard to like bring negative energy anywhere you go when you're like, you can't, there is no space for you to carry negative energy.
Yeah. Big facts.
Yeah. So in this entire journey of your life, being of a Latina family and kind of going through all of this, what is your relationship like with your family? How has it shaped and changed over the years as you have become more authentically you?
Yeah. That's a great question. From like growing up, my family or my mom and dad were Christian, obviously. So we would go to church a lot of times. And I at one point was like, I don't really think church is for me. I feel like this was around like middle school. So I stopped really going with them and just kind of staying home and stuff like that. But that kind of because of that, I feel like they had a certain view when it did come to the LGBT community.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only am I part of it, but eventually my sister is also a part of it. So, we got two gay women in this house. So I remember like specifically when my sister came out, there was like some pushback on that by my mom and my dad. But eventually I could kind of see my mom like opening up, and she even started going to therapy and like kind of like breaking down what happened in our childhood and the things that
Mm-hmm.
happened. And I feel like now my relationship with my mom is like really good. I feel like I can go to her with anything, and she's a lot more open than I feel like she was um, when we were kids.
Yeah.
My dad, honestly, don't really talk to him like that. No bad blood, but he was just kind of a emotionally absent father, so I don't really have anything to give to him. So, it is what it
Yeah.
is, but not heard about it. But I'm grateful that my mom was able to open up the way that she did, because it just kind of solidified our relationship and kind of,
Yeah.
it's nice to have a parent that supports you.
Yeah, definitely. And that's amazing that, no offense to a lot of people in that age demographic, but a lot of people will not take those steps to even try to open their mindsets
Mm-hmm.
and figure out their things. And I think that that is huge. There's a lot of people that don't realize how much generational trauma
Yeah.
we pass down in the Latin community,
Yeah.
that it is kind of insane.
Yeah.
And, it's funny because on recently, like I would say probably like the last few days, I had started watching Lopez versus Lopez, the new George Lopez show with like him and his daughter.
Oh yeah.
And it's really from like the daughter's perspective
Mm.
on like her figuring out how to handle the generational trauma passed down by her parents. And so
Mm.
it's kind of amazing to watch because there's a lot of funny things that happen in the show. Obviously, it's a comedy
Yeah.
show and it's by George Lopez, so it's going to be kind of funny. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that happens that I'm like, that happened to me two
Yeah.
weeks ago with my family, or like, like as a kid, that happened every day.
Yeah.
So being able to really like look at some of that stuff and realize that we need to be the forefront of making change um, is really important. And I know that for us, there's not a lot of people on the internet or in the world really outwardly speaking about these things.
Yeah.
Like, in the Black community, we see a lot of people really talking about it and bringing awareness to the different topics and really talking about that generational trauma that passes down. And to people listening, I'm not Black, I don't get it, I get it, like there's particular things that you guys have gone through that you guys can all relate to. And it's the same for people of the Latin community. And I
Yeah.
think for a lot of us, we need to kind of take a little bit of time to think about those things and really bring awareness to it.
Yeah.
So being able to have you talk about it, I thank you because, not everybody wants to talk about those types of things in their lives, but seeing your mom kind of take those steps really makes me feel good inside because
Yeah.
I just it's amazing to see somebody really take those steps and grow in a very different way.
Yeah.
Which everybody listening or watching, generational trauma is a real thing. You
Definitely.
carry it, you may not realize it. If you have a significant other, I promise you, if you have a real conversation with them, they will point out the generational trauma that you carry.
Yes.
So take a second and think of that because there are things that, really do happen that become a little hard.
Yeah.
I know for me personally, I really try to work on the way I communicate a lot of the time. I remember my parents being very blunt, very
Mm-hmm.
abrupt, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that is not received in the best way when you don't grow up like that. And I think realizing those things and being able to be open about them makes you kind of work in that direction of being better at it.
Yeah. That just reminded me because, like, yesterday I was kind of having a heated discussion with one of my friends, and being Puerto Rican, there's a thing of, oh, y'all are always loud and blah, blah, blah. And during this discussion, I was getting a little louder and speaking a little faster. But that's just my passion. Like, that's just how my passion speaks through. And at one point, the person was like, okay, calm down. You don't have to yell. And that just pissed me off because I'm like, I'm not even yelling. It's just literally, this is how I am. Like, there's a difference
Right.
between me yelling and me speaking passionately. And I'm going to walk away from the situation because I don't want to start yelling at you.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing is like being open about those types of things as well. Not everything is generational trauma either.
Mhm.
Like us as a culture, we genuinely are kind of loud.
Yes.
I've noticed it more, especially like living here in Puerto Rico and being here all the time. Being with a lot of my family in the same room, it's almost like they all try to talk over each other.
Yes.
And it's quite funny to listen to because nobody's intentionally trying to talk over each other. They're
No.
all having their own conversations just
Yeah.
in the same room at the same time. And also, half of them are 55 plus and already cannot hear that well. So
Yeah.
they're screaming at each other too. But, culturally, it is a thing. We're normally listening to music. So you're talking over the music,
Hmm.
you're kind of like in that space. The one thing I will say though, being Puerto Rican, is that I can have a full conversation at the bar. And yes, I will understand everything that you're saying.
Literally. Like, what?
Which most people
Yeah.
cannot. But for me, I get it. I can
Hmm.
read your lips. I can understand the conversation. I know what happened.
Don't matter all the distractions in the background. It's just me and you having this conversation right now.
Exactly. So just know that if you are Puerto Rican, we get the skill. That is a
Oh,
skill that not everybody gets. So that is so awesome though. And we love that and we love the growth. So switching kind of from family to dating, what is dating like and what is your real life person? Are you waiting for Prince Charming or Cinderella to knock on your door? What is it?
I'm hoping for the last one. At this
That's the
point,
one that'll sweep you off your feet.
yeah. At this point, you know, my dating life is okay. I feel like right now the major thing about my dating life is because I've normally dated a lot of men. I haven't really like seriously dated women. I have had interactions with women and flings here and there. But what I'm working on right now is like, do I really genuinely want to date men, or am I just dating them because that was what I was taught to do growing up? And how do I go about dating women? Because I don't like using the apps very much, to be honest. I feel like they're just not as genuine, and I honestly am a bad texter, so like it just doesn't align well with me. So I've been trying things more organically. I do like going out a lot, to raves and stuff like that, so I've been meeting a lot of people through there, and just kind of anyone who I see I have an interest in, I will try to go talk to them and see if that happens. So right now it's a little bit more organic, but it hasn't really gotten me anywhere.
Well, to be fair, I'm not sure that there are many lesbian app based apps.
Right.
But with that being said, though, because you are kind of more like me in the time that I've known you, where we're very outgoing people. We're the type of people to like walk up to a stranger and start a conversation because why the hell not?
Right.
I want to know who you are because obviously there's a reason that the universe put you and I in the same room. So we're going to find out, right? Either it might be a couple of reasons. One, who knows? You might be somebody that just shocks me and I need to keep you in my life.
Yeah.
Maybe you might be somebody that I need to school for a minute because your point of view is all crazy.
Big facts.
So maybe I have to teach you something. Or maybe you are the shyest person in the room and I just brighten up your day a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of those are the mindsets that I have. Like when I go walk into a room,
Yeah.
I remember being younger, being like 19, 20, and like going to a bar by myself and being terrified. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm in here by myself.
Yes.
Nobody's going to come talk to me, whatever. So being able to kind of think outside the box a little bit and redirect my thoughts is what helped me kind of become a little bit more outgoing.
Yes.
So what is it that you think has helped you become kind of more of this extroverted person?
Yeah. Honestly, kind of the same similar thing as you when you said that you went out by yourself to a bar. So like obviously when I was traveling across the country by myself, I was doing everything by myself. And I didn't want to stop myself from going out, but just because I didn't have anybody else. So I'm like, you know what? Okay. I'm, a naturally outgoing person. Like I have a smile on my face. If I go out, I'm pretty sure I will make a friend or two. And literally every time I went out, I made a friend or two. So every time I kept going out by myself and just making friends, it just kind of confirmed like, hey, I can make friends in this situation even if I'm by myself. Like, yes, I might be going by myself, but I'm not going to be alone, is the thought process that I've
Right.
had. So I've been going out by myself even here in Charlotte. I went out by myself to like a rave event, and now I've met this whole group of ravers that I like going out with. And anytime I see them, they're like, "Hey, Natalie!" I'm like, "Hey!" Like they're excited to see me, and I'm excited to see them, and it just feels like so much love. Like, and that was just with me going out by myself to an event that literally had like 5 other people at it. So, like, you just gotta put yourself out there, and the more you do it,
Yeah.
the easier it gets. I feel like.
Definitely. What is advice that you would give somebody that has like that's really not extroverted but like wants to be better at making friends or being
Yeah.
out in the world?
I will say, like, first of all, go to like a place that you feel comfortable with. Like, if you're kind of more introverted and you like reading books or like you like coffee or, go to those places and kind of hang out in those places for a good minute. Me, since I like going out, I literally just went out to the clubs by myself. Like, hey, was dancing. But I always tell people, like, if you want to start a conversation with somebody, like, give them a compliment. That's the easiest way to open a door for conversation because, most people are going to be open to receiving a compliment. And you're like, hey, I like your shirt. Where'd you get it from? And then, boom, conversation starts. You made a new friend. You exchange contact information. And, you can always hit them up in the future if you want to hang out again. Like, I feel like it's a lot easier than sometimes our mind makes it seem a lot harder when it really isn't.
Yeah. Well, and something I want to highlight on that is you have to go somewhere that you mutually enjoy the
Right,
space.
exactly.
If you're not a club person,
Yeah.
you're not going to be comfortable being more extroverted in a club setting because that's not your
Right.
space. Like, that's not where you're not, you got to be able to kind of go do things. Like, for me personally, I would not go to like a coffee shop to go to make a friend.
Yeah.
That's just not my vibe.
Yeah.
I don't want to be turned down from making a friend in a damn coffee shop where there's only three other people in this whole place and everybody just watched me not succeed in a friendship. Like, I don't want to do that. Which is why I prefer to go to a club or be at a bar
Yeah.
or any of those types of things because it's usually a lot more people. Usually I have the opportunity to relate on a song,
Mm-hmm.
dancing. Sometimes you're at a bar and the person comes up next to you and they order the same drink as you.
Yeah.
Like, that's a telling sign that
Mm-hmm.
there's probably some things you guys have in common. So those types of things I think are really important. And I think whether you're dating or in a relationship or whatever, you should still be kind of extroverted enough to build friendships and grow and get to meet people. I know for me, I love meeting people anywhere
Mm-hmm.
and learning about their stories, their adventures, what they do. I think being a person with a really open mind of wanting to get to know more people, I think you're able to kind of break down some of your own barriers and some of your own thought process when you meet
Yes.
a lot of people. Um, you know, especially culturally, I think we don't really pay attention enough to the things that we keep in our minds from culturally growing up,
Yeah.
that when you actually like get to meet certain people, that really changes that thought process on a lot of those things.
Yeah. And then you're like, actually, wait, world has been opened.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, wait, everything that I learned was a stereotype and not actually how these people are.
Yeah.
And I really like everyone here.
They
Right.
literally. Yeah, an underrated place to go though by yourself is concerts. Literally, I feel like that's one of the easiest places to make friends too because you're gonna have people around you, obviously in the seats, and you're all there to see already an artist that y'all all love. So when the music starts and y'all just jamming, boom, you make a friend.
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree with that. There's so many people at a concert, and you're going to be surrounded by people that all paid money to be there.
Yeah, literally.
Right? So we're not putting money into things that we don't want to be at. Now,
Right.
don't get me wrong, if the couple next to you, depending on the concert you're at, and there's like, a couple next to
Yeah.
you, maybe
They
maybe they're both not equally happy to be there,
yeah.
but hopefully your tickets are seated next to like a group of friends that all bought tickets together,
Yeah.
and then like you get to talk to them.
Yeah.
Just hope you didn't get in the couple section of the concert.
And hope that they're not arguing that night.
Yeah, for real. Like, actually, that reminds me, I went to an Alicia Keys concert.
Mhm.
Alicia Keys, if you ever watch this, I do want tickets to another concert because I feel like they ruined my whole concert. But I was at the concert, right? I went to Alicia Keys in Charlotte. It
Mhm.
was like a last minute thing. I was like, Alicia Keys is in town. I was like, I kind of want to go. Like, that's kind of iconic.
Right.
Just like, you
Wishki.
know? And so I went online and I bought tickets. I was like, screw it. When's the next time I'm going to see Alicia Keys live? Whatever. So I go to this concert And every concert I've ever been to in my entire life, yes, there's seats, but we're not all seated.
Right. We're all standing.
Okay. So I'm standing up, living my like young childhood life
Right.
with Alicia Keys singing in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And this man who's clearly there because he's there with his wife,
Mm.
who is standing next to him,
Mm.
proceeds to tell me that I should sit down so that he could see.
I've been like,
And when
baby,
I
there's a
tell
screen right there.
you,
You can't see that screen.
listen, I was ready to fight. I was ready to fight. I'm like, excuse me? Like,
Hey,
everybody's standing in this place.
how about you stand up?
Like, we're at a concert. Why are you seated at a concert?
Like,
You're supposed to be lit right now.
right. No, that would have made me
And
mad too. And I'm like, bruh, are you so serious?
then he continued with his comments, like under his breath. And his wife and him ended up leaving like halfway through the concert
They didn't even stay
because
for
she
the
was
full
like ready
con.
to go.
Wow.
I mean, I was when I first responded and he kept with his comments, she knew that I was ready to fight. So she was like, let me get this crazy man out of here because I'm just going to have to miss out on the concert.
No.
So actually, Alicia Keys, get her a ticket.
But she missed
She
half
could
of
come see you
it.
because she missed the second half of the concert.
But the thing was, he didn't
But
say nobody. He didn't say nothing to nobody else because you weren't the only one standing around there.
nothing to no one else, just me.
Yeah, he was just in a bad mood.
Granted, I will say that he did look like he was anti-LGBT, and I was there in heels looking hella gay.
Yeah.
And so that was probably part of it. But, you know, I was not backing. I will fight you in these heels, girl.
Yeah.
I have no shame.
I will use the heel as a weapon. Don't try me.
Listen, I will whoop your old ass in this concert and finish watching Alicia Keys when I'm done. Don't play me. Yeah, she must have known.
Yeah.
She was ready to go.
She didn't want no smoke. She didn't want no smoke.
She did not want the smoke. She was not ready for it. And she did not think I was going to snap back. But yeah, I was like, that's wild. So if you do buy tickets and go to a concert, hopefully you're not near that guy either.
Yeah, not by a hater.
Really, that guy should never go to concerts.
No. Because if you're telling people to sit down at a concert, that's wild.
Right?
That's wild.
Like, I was ready to fight. So one other place I wanted to talk to you a little bit about was Mexico. How much time you spend there? What'd you do there? Yeah. What got you to Mexico?
Friend's birthday, obviously. We went to Tulum. We were only there for a week, maybe a little less than a week. But it was a couple days. It was super fun. I got to see my first sea turtle when I was there, and I love sea turtles, so like that was just like a moment. I got to feed it with my hand, and then I got a tattoo of a sea turtle there. So iconic.
Period.
But I will say, like, that going to Mexico, at least that time, it was more of like a party because it was my friend's birthday, so we weren't like really doing too much of like learning about the area. We were mostly just focusing on like, let's make sure our friend has a good time. The area that we were in had a lot of hostels, so we stayed in a hostel and we literally kind of just partied in all the hostels. But it was really cool to meet all the different kind of people there because there was literally people from all over the world in the hostels, and it kind of they created an environment where you kind of like chit-chatted with other people a lot because they had like events every night and stuff, so a lot of people would mingle and stuff like that. But I definitely want to go back to Mexico, especially the Mexico City, because I've heard so many good things about there and like all the history there. I want to go visit for that reason, to be honest. So hopefully that's going to be my next trip.
I definitely want to go to Mexico City. That is on my list of places because I have heard so much great things about Mexico City, and I actually now have a friend that lives in Mexico City.
Yes.
So we're about to definitely have to go to Mexico City and have some fun. So in all of your travels and being able to kind of experience a lot of culture and a lot of adventure, what is some type of advice that you would give to a younger version of yourself or somebody that is coming into who they authentically are now?
What came off my head immediately was kind of like, don't let other one person's critique of you like decide what you do for yourself. There's always going to be people critiquing whatever somebody does, whether it be good or bad. So like sometimes you can't take that to heart, like for real. And at the end of the day, you got to follow what your gut tells you, what your heart tells you, and what feels good for you. Traveling wise, especially for my ladies out there, just make sure you are aware of your surroundings, because obviously there's a lot of shit that happens when traveling. But the one thing that I get a lot when I say that I like to travel by myself is like, you're a woman, like you shouldn't be traveling by yourself. There's so many things that people get kidnapped and blah, 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 blah. Baby, I feel a lot safer in other countries than I do here in the States. So, like, it's fine. Just make sure you're aware of your surroundings, like, and you have some kind of protection on you, and you will be okay. Like, that's what I tell people. And lastly, honestly, is to not put, like, well, at least coming from the States, like, don't put the amenities that you have on the States in other countries. Like, when you go visit another country, you're not going to have the same things that you have in the US, and that's okay. Like, they might not have the same things, but they might have something comparable. And if not, that's just the way that they live. And it's your job to adjust to their culture, not their job to adjust to your culture. So that's what I like to tell people.
Yeah, I having left the US to live in another country and going back and forth, I've learned more recently that the what is it called? I want to say the accommodations, but it's not that. It's like to easily be able to get stuff.
Um, oh my god, why am I blanking too? Not accommodate commodities, no. Comforts, no. Starts with a C.
Anyways, so the being having left the US to live somewhere else and going back and forth, I've realized that a lot of the things that make you the most comfortable about living in the US is very different in a lot of other countries. Um, simple things like most countries do not have central air like the US does. Most countries spend a lot more time outside. So the living quarters are much smaller because a lot more people spend time outdoors, enjoying the nature, enjoying festivities, being part of something other than being home. So a lot of those things become very different. And also, accessibility to stuff. A lot of the time you may leave your house and have a Walmart, a Target, a mall, everything within, 10, 15, 20 minutes of you. You're going to go to some of these countries where none of that exists. Right. And everything could be a small mom and pop shop or something like that. So being able to find certain things could become difficult. So being open-minded to sometimes you might not be able to find what you're looking for, but there is always an alternative. So for all of the people that are out here fearful to go out because they're afraid of getting kidnapped or any of that kind of stuff, what things do you carry with you that is like your go-to must-haves anywhere you go, anywhere you travel?
First of all, these two hands. I will fight a bitch. 1, 2.
Got it.
Okay. But I also have a pocket knife that I usually carry around with me. I know other people like to carry around tasers or pepper spray. I personally haven't had any issue where I've had to actually fight anybody or pull out my weapon, so I'm grateful for that. But yeah, honestly, my choice is the pocket knife, so a bitch will get stabbed.
Yeah.
if they mess with me.
A quick little shank never hurt nobody.
But
That's how
anything can
you
be
know
a
that
weapon if you really want to.
That's how you know that Natalie's a Latina. She's a quick shank away from getting the job done.
Okay, because you're not gonna take me. One thing about it.
Yes, that's for sure. Things to remember too is I think if you're traveling and you're aware of your surroundings and what's going on, and you're not like going down a random road that clearly no one else is walking
Right.
on, or things like that, like you should be paying attention to those things
Yeah.
as well when you travel. And if it does make you feel safer to have things, go on TikTok and search up some things. There are
Yes.
some people that sell some crazy keychain things that
Yes.
have like every survival kit tool
Mm-hmm.
you could need on a keychain and things like that. Also not sponsored, but if one of y'all want to sponsor, let me know.
I will also say,
Send me one of those. Send me one of those survival
no,
keychains and I'll
literally.
do a video on it. Like, send it over.
I was also gonna say, like, when you are traveling alone, sometimes it's nicer to stay in hotels or like places where there is like a front desk, like hostels, just because, if anything, at least you know that, or they know that you're there. And if you have any issues, there's kind of somebody that you can kind of go to and be like, hey, I don't feel safe. Can you help me out? Or this or that. You know what I'm saying? There's always people, no matter how scary the world may seem, that are willing to help somebody in need.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of the time, if you're staying at a hotel or at a hostel, their main business is tourism.
Yeah,
So they're going to make sure that they take care of their tourists that do
exactly.
show up.
Mm-hmm.
So just know that like a lot of the people are really helpful.
Yeah. So,
Definitely a part of the adventure.
yeah.
Obviously, your story is full of adventure, full of getting to learn who you are and a lot about yourself. And we do love to see that you are living your authentic self and really enjoying life and learning how to grow. The last question I ask everybody that joins us on the podcast, that is the best way, in my opinion, to release negativity, is who in your life would you officially say girl bye because they don't bring any adventure or purpose to your life?
Ooh, that's a good question. I was gonna say girl by capitalism, but I don't think that. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna stand on that. It's not a person, it's a system, but fuck it.
Girl bye capitalism. Because that's the truth.
And no, big facts, because at this point, it's not helping those of the working class. And, why are we suffering so much for the few people that want to stay in power? Doesn't make sense to me. It does not make
Facts.
sense. Bye.
And then something that is part of the adventure is always keeping a positive outlook on life and having fun. And I love that you do that. So hopefully, people who want to be a part of your adventure can join you
Yeah.
on social media. They can follow you on Instagram, any of those types of things. But any last things you want to comment on or advice you'd like to give before we wrap this up?
No, I just think that as people stand in their own power, a lot more great things are gonna come into this world for the betterment of everybody. And I'm excited to see the world blossom into something that's more loving and community based, and really watching out for each other instead of trying to be individual.
Yes,
So,
period. I 100% believe that. And one of the main reasons I started this podcast is bringing people together, getting people to be a part of a community, and really being realistic.
yeah.
So, thank you so much for joining us today
Thank you
on
for having
Girl
me.
Bye.
Girl,
We will
bye.
continue to bring you the realest conversations on the internet. And if you would like to learn about everybody's stories, take a look at the Girl by TikTok, Instagram, follow us on all social media,
Period.
and get your new episode of Girl By every Monday. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.